They say that if you listen long enough to the silence, it eventually starts to talk back. But what if you can't understand the language? Welcome back to Fable's Adventures. Today's story, The Untranslated Call, is a journey into the heart of the salt flats, where the twin moons cast long shadows and the air hums with a frequency that feels like a warning. This is a story for those who have ever felt a call they couldn't explain, and for those who know that sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is listen. If you enjoy narratives that explore the thin line between empathy and madness, make sure to subscribe and join our community. Now, dim the lights and prepare for the hum. Let's head into the void.
The mirages started 3 nights ago. Seren didn't notice immediately. Not the first time, anyway. The first time was easy to dismiss. A shimmer, a trick of the dual moonlight. The way the salt flat conspires with exhaustion to convince you that you've seen something you haven't. But you know how it goes. You've done this yourself. You see what you want to see, and then you rationalize it away, and then you sleep poorly, because some part of you knows you're lying. By the 3rd night, there was no pretending. The fragments came in the same sequence, always. A voice, neither male nor female, neither close nor distant, repeating syllables that belonged to no language Seren had ever encountered in the dust of libraries or the margins of corrupted texts. Veltir mon, veltir mon. And beneath it, other sounds, a rhythm like a heartbeat made of crystal, a frequency that made the back of Seren's teeth ache. Whisper refused to move toward it. This was the part that carved the deepest groove into Seren's chest. Whisper, who had followed Seren through collapsed temples and flooded catacombs, whose amber eyes reflected starlight with the certainty of prophecy. Whisper planted herself against the salt, her fur standing in invisible currents, and would not budge. When Seren took a step toward the shimmer, the fox turned away. When Seren persisted, Whisper's whine became something closer to a howl, the sound of an animal begging you not to open a door you're already reaching for. "I know," Seren had whispered on the 2nd night, kneeling beside her. "I know you sense it." But knowing and understanding are different countries. Separated by a border of silence, neither of them could quite cross. The problem with being someone who listens, really listens, is that you can't unhear things. Seren had spent years developing an ear for what lay beneath words, the tremor that betrayed fear, the flatness that signaled a lie, the particular hitch in breath that came with desperation. It was a gift, the scholar had always believed, a way to help, a way to know when someone needed saving. It was also, as it turned out, a way to be haunted, because the voice in the mirage carried all of those things at once, the desperate tremor, the flatness of repetition, the hitch of something drowning. Vel thermon, help, help, help. Even untranslated, the meaning leaked through like water through cracked stone. Seren had stopped eating yesterday. The salt flat stretched in all directions, a void that made its own kind of music, a low hum that lived in the spaces between sound, that you felt in your bones rather than heard with your ears. The twin moons cast their silver-blue light across the crystalline formations, and those formations sang back, a chorus of frequencies that had probably been singing since before language was invented, before people were invented, before the concept of help existed at all. On the 4th night, Seren made a decision. "Stay," they said to Whisper, and meant it not as a command, but as a prayer. "Please stay here." The fox's eyes were wet. Seren had never seen that before. In all the years of companionship, through danger and loss, and the slow accumulation of small heartbreaks, Whisper's gaze had remained luminous, certain. Now it was clouded with something that looked almost like grief. "If I'm wrong about this," Seren continued, their voice carrying that particular melody it always did when truth was being spoken, the haunting resonance that made broken things want to mend themselves. "If I'm wrong, you were right not to follow. Remember that. Remember that you tried to warn me." Seren stood. The salt crunched beneath their boots, each grain a tiny star collapsing. The mirage shimmered in the distance, and this time, maybe it was the darkness playing tricks, or maybe it was the fourth night of sleeplessness, or maybe it was the simple mathematics of desperation. It seemed closer, more solid, almost real enough to touch. "I'm coming," Seren called out, though to whom, they couldn't say. The walk took hours or minutes. Time moves strangely in the salt flat. It moves like syrup. It moves like light through deep water. Seren's throat was sand dry, and they could taste copper, that metallic bite of their own cheek, worried between their teeth. When had they started doing that? Somewhere in the past 3 nights, anxiety had found a home in their mouth, and now it lived there, small and persistent as a pebble. The mirage didn't recede as Seren approached. That was new. Usually mirages had the decency to vanish when you got close, to reveal themselves as lies, with good timing. This one held its ground. It solidified. The voice became clearer, the frequency more precise, until Seren could almost grasp the meaning. "Velthirmon, the keeper, the one who remembers, don't let us forget, don't let us." And then, between one step and the next, it was gone. Not gradually, not with the slow fade of a dream upon waking. Gone like a door slamming shut. Gone like a picture frame emptied of its photograph, leaving only the ghost weight of what used to be there. Seren stood alone in the salt flat, beneath the twin moons, and felt the weight of their own heartbeat like a stone in their chest. This was the moment, they knew. This was where the decision point lived. This was where you could still turn back, where you could walk the long journey home to where Whisper waited, amber eyes patient with betrayal, where you could choose doubt over faith, caution over compassion, where you could protect yourself. Seren's voice, when they spoke, carried no melody at all, just the flat, clinical sound of someone reading a report on their own dissolution. "I don't know what you are," they said to the empty air. "I don't know if you're real or a fragment of something that died ages ago. I don't know if you're calling for help or calling me to harm. I can't translate you. I can't understand you. I can't even be certain you exist." The salt hummed beneath them, a frequency that made their bones resonate. "But I heard you," Seren finished quietly, "and that has to be enough. That has to mean something." They stood there until the moons reached their apex. They stood there until their shadow disappeared completely, until they existed as just another voice crying out into the void. They stood there until they understood, with the kind of clarity that comes from surrender, that some questions don't have answers. Some calls for help come from places so far away that the answer you give will never reach them. Some betrayals are written into the very fabric of existence, unavoidable as salt, as inevitable as thirst. When Seren finally turned to walk back, they didn't look for the mirage. They didn't listen for the voice. They simply moved across the crystalline landscape, their footprints erasing themselves behind them, until they found Whisper waiting at the edge of where the salt flat met the harder ground. The fox was trembling. Seren knelt, and Whisper pressed against them with a force that felt like forgiveness. Though forgiveness for what? For leaving, for returning, for existing at all in a world that sometimes asks impossible things of gentle hearts, Neither of them could quite say. "I know," Seren whispered into the fox's fur. "I know you tried to warn me." Overhead, the twin moons continued their slow arc across the sky. Beneath them, the crystalline formations continued their ancient humming. And somewhere in the salt flat, the voice, whether real or remembered, whether asking for help or offering it, continued its lonely, incomprehensible refrain. Some things Seren understood now were meant to remain untranslated. Some distances were meant to be unbridged, and some silences, no matter how loud they seemed, were just the sound of being alive in a universe too vast to answer back.
Seren and Whisper are still out there, walking the line between what we know and what we can only feel. Sometimes, the bravest thing isn't finding the answer. It's having the courage to stand in the silence when no answer comes. I'd love to hear your interpretation of the mirage. Was it a plea for help? Or just the salt flat playing back an ancient memory? Let's discuss the untranslated in the comments below. If you have younger listeners at home, remember that we have dedicated channels for ages 5 to 8 and 9 to 12, where the mysteries are a bit brighter but just as magical. And for the creators out there, if you want to build your own crystalline worlds in silent deserts, the Fables Adventures app is where these journeys begin. Download it at the link below to start your own story today. Please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to support the channel. It's how we keep the signal alive in the void. Until tomorrow, keep listening, even to the things you can't quite translate.